So, as I near the end of my animation process, I wanted to document a little bit of a behind the scenes sneak peek into how I go about animating each scene. I've picked out this next scene. I've been animating in a linear order, so I just waited until I had a suitable section that I wanted to use as an illustration. And it's kind of two scenes because there's a walking cycle, which I thought would be cool to see, like that side of things, and then there's this other section that is more artistic, I suppose, more background changes and stuff. So I've got 7 layers, as you can see here: foreground details, ink, color, sketch draft, background details, and background, if I remember correctly. And we are currently looking at the draft. So this is what I did over a year or so ago now. And as you can see, Past Willow laid some pretty good groundwork. Not bad. You can obviously tell I had not yet started animation, so this walk cycle is a little bit janky, so I will have to fix that in the sketching phase. So that's basically what I'm going to be moving on to next, is doing a sketch. So I'll start by making a walk cycle. Now I am using a reference, just an image. Here it is. You can have a look at it. It's pretty good. I've used it a couple times now. And I could have rotoscoped, would be another way I could have done this. But a bit too much effort for this particular scene. It doesn't need that level of realism, I think. And otherwise I could have just done it by eye. But I'm sort of doing that anyway, a little bit. I'm just using the image as a rough guide for the positions. So I started sketching, and I did a couple different frames before I kind of thought that I wanted to change the angle to have it more direct, to follow the image a little bit better, and also it just makes sense when it goes on to the next scene as well. If they're facing forward, they should be kind of coming closer to the camera anyway. So it just makes sense to change it. And right now I'm just going to do a basic, just get the frames down. And it is a walking cycle. So I will be cycling this around for the whole scene, which means I only need to draw so many frames. I think it's 16 individual frames that I had to draw in the end. And now I am going to add some details, like their clothes, shoes, maybe readjust some things if it looked a bit weird or janky or whatever. There's always readjustment that gets made. And the reason why I sketch instead of just going straight to inking is if I went straight to inking, there'd be a lot of erasing. I don't know, it just seems messier to me. So I prefer to do the sketch, even if I'm double handling a little bit. So as you know, now we copy things out. Lots of copying out. I copy out so much. I've got this fear that I will accidentally delete a frame, and because I'm animating linearly and it's synced up to the music, if I delete a single frame, it's gonna put it out of time by a little. It just freaks me out, that possibility. Anyway, so moving on. Now I'm gonna do the sketch for this next little section. My focus is mainly on just having the 4 scenes quite distinct from each other. I've just got an image in my head, bold colors and stuff. Anyway, so for now I can illustrate that through their clothes, their style. And so I'm gonna I'll draw some nice outfits, hopefully. So there's a couple things here based off the draft. I like the draft. I would almost just sketch directly from the draft, but it's on 4s and I would like it to be on 2s, so I will have to just make up the in-between frames of that, like what that should look like. And I noticed as I was working on this, and I don't know if I took any video of it, but the draft, both of them like swap around on their legs at some point. One of them, it's okay, but it's not, I don't like it. And the other one, it's actually a mistake. Like I made a mistake about which leg was moving where. So for myself, I fixed it in the draft so that I didn't have to remember to fix it as I was inking it, because I could easily have forgotten and kept the mistake in. So I fixed the draft and now I'm just sketching it kind of directly, and making sure along the way that their legs are where, they're on the right leg. That's very important when you're walking. You're on the right leg, otherwise it'll look weird. Anyway, so more copying out, and I think that's done, so we can move on to inking. Inking's fun because it's just doing the lines. So yeah, basically just follow the sketches for this walk cycle. Again, once I've done 16 of the individual drawings, I can just copy it out. So what I do is when I finish a frame, finish inking it, I copy it and I paste it into the color section. I only do, if it's being held for 2 frames, I only do the first frame because I'm going to copy out the color anyway. So it'll be double handling. So just copy it to the color and then copy it to the second frame and then move on to the next drawing and repeat again. And then I'm going to ink the next scene. So I'm going to make the pen a little smaller for this, finer details. Again, just kind of following what I already laid out. It's pretty easy. Maybe adding some little details here or there. And on this kind of second background for the umbrella, even though when I was sketching it, I drew it each time in each frame, individually in each frame. I don't need to do that, so I'm going to just draw the umbrella once and then copy it out and paste it onto all the scenes that have an umbrella. It's easy. I've done that a few times with some of the inanimate objects. Don't need to move, you know what I mean? It's just more work. So just do that, and that's pretty good. It looks pretty spiffy. Next, I'm going to actually go on to the background. I've done it. Sometimes the order is that I sketch and then I do the background and then I ink. But I've found sometimes if the backgrounds are very vivid or whatever, it's hard to see. The blue sketch doesn't look good on them, so it's hard for me to see it, and that just makes it harder. So it's easier to do it this way around. I sketch the backgrounds based off the draft. So I do a quick sketch. Obviously these backgrounds aren't moving apart from the walking cycle. So, but I'm not gonna sketch out the whole walking cycle background. I don't need to do that. But for these other backgrounds, I'm gonna do a sketch so I can roughly follow it. Make sure, I guess the ground is very important to have those lines the same as in the draft, because I've obviously inked the characters to be walking where that ground is, so I want to make sure that their feet stay in contact with the ground. So I'm not gonna go crazy. I'm not gonna divert from the draft very much, and I like the aesthetic of these anyway. This walking scene bleeds into the next scene. I'm gonna do a bit of the next scene to kind of reference. So I'm going to do this little scene first so I can use the colors as reference for the walking scene. Does that make sense? So from the sketch, then I choose colors. That can take a while. Just figuring out what colors I want to do. Lots of trial and error, lots of testing this, testing that, seeing if it looks nice. For the backgrounds, I like to make the colors see-through. I like to lighten the opacity of the colors and layer them and do stuff like that. It's just the aesthetic that I've gone for this particular project, and I think it works well. Sometimes the backgrounds just come super easily, and sometimes they just don't, and I get so stuck. I can get so stuck on a color. I got a little bit stuck on this green one. Now that I've got the colors figured out, I just work away. Pretty simple background, just try and figure it out. When you do so much test work, you have to delete all of that afterwards as well. So that takes time. That takes time to do. So now the next background, which I kind of had a color scheme in my head. I was thinking like reds and browns and navies and dark greens and just kind of like rocky, mountainy, but like deserty. I don't know. I had an image in my head. I tried to capture it with like the navies and the dark greens, but I didn't really like that. So I ended up looking up just like a sunset mountain scenery and got some inspiration for some kind of orangey, dusty, browny colors. So yeah, it's coming around nicely. And then add some more details, the goats, some greenery, all of that. For this walking cycle, you can see that the draft I had like a few different moving parts because I was trying to have that perspective of like, you know how things, if you're walking, things in the distance don't move, things close by you move, but then things in the mid-distance move a little bit, you know, they're kind of shifting from your perspective point of view thing. Anyway, whatever, I thought that was too much trouble, so I'm ditching that idea. I'm just going to have the ground move. For this, you can see I'm going to put these little dots where their feet are, just so I can kind of match it up. There was a point where I did like, 10 frames, and then I realized that the ground was like sinking and it looked weird, so I had to redo those frames, basically, which happens, or I had to redo part of them. So there's a lot of that. There's a lot of you do it and then you realize, actually, I don't like how that looks, and you have to redo it, or even just small changes you have to make. It's part of the process. So yeah, I think that looks pretty good. I think that looks pretty good. And then the next scene I wanted to be like magical purples, like vivid purples and deep greens and stuff. I like drawing the trees. Again, I draw them on different layers to start with, just so if I make a mistake or if I want to change something, if I want to change the foliage, I don't have to worry about changing the trunks or vice versa. You know what I mean? So it's all in different layers. The last background, again, I had a very distinct idea of what I wanted for this. I wanted this kind of like icy, cool blue, white, grey kind of color scheme. I ended up drawing multiple backgrounds for this one, and actually I like quite a few of them. So that's another problem. Sometimes you can get stuck on doing a background, and then sometimes you get too many ideas and there's too many ways you could go. And I narrowed it down to 2 backgrounds that I liked. And so when you can't make a decision because you like them both, what do? You go and ask somebody else. So I'm going to keep the background that I like, the second one. I'm going to keep it in a draft slot just in case I change my mind and I don't want to lose it. So now that the backgrounds are done, I can move on to color. Actually, one thing I like to do for this whole project is to have them recycle their clothes or reuse their clothes, because it just makes sense narratively that they're not always going to be in a different outfit. So first I'm going to go back through all my animation and see if I can pick up some colors that I think would suit. I knew that this kind of turquoisey green I wanted to use for the shirt because I remember it in the hot air balloon scene, so I wanted to reuse that anyway. So I picked out all these colors and just mess around until it works. So yeah, I have preset colors for each of the characters. I have Tillium, so she's got a set skin tone, hair tone. I rarely change these except if there's really drastic lighting going on. Pyrus, he has his set colors. He has 3 skin tones though that I have used because I feel he does tan when it's sunny. So I'm actually using the middle tone most often now. Actually, I feel that suits him best. Yeah, so I just do that, and then I can use these colors now as reference for the walking cycle, so I can just fill out all of these. Again, it's just copying, it's just filling the spaces. And now once it's all colored in, again, you just copy it out because it's a cycle. I can copy it here, and then I move along and copy it in the next section and the next section. Oh, and look, sometimes filling them up, you notice that if the outline doesn't match, it bleeds through. So you've got to, you'll hit a spot and it'll just cover everything, and so you've got to find where it's leaking. And sometimes that's so minute, but I've gotten really good at figuring out where it leaks. So I just have my black pen ready and I just seal it up and then move on. Because they're the same characters, I can just do the skin and I can color it in for all the scene spots, except, as I was talking before, if there's a drastic light change. So for this magical forest scene, I want them to be a bit darker because they're more in shadow and there's not really a light source. So I'm just going to darken their tones a bit. When I come to the clothes, then it changes a bit and I'll have to choose the colors. So yeah, again, just trial and error. Which colors do I like? Which colors am I reusing? How does it look in the background? Yada, 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 yada. Unfortunately, because I used a smaller ink, when it's such a thin line, it reads it as not being a thick, not being a solid line. And so for this umbrella, it doesn't work at all. So I've got to actually just draw the outline of the umbrella again, so that it picks it up, and then I can color it in. And lastly, before you can see, I haven't copied them out yet. So now that's because I need to do the shading on their eyes. Now, if they were bigger, they'd probably have their cheek colors as well that I'd need to color in. And that also, if they had their mouths open, I have a tone, their mouth tones that I would also color in. But luckily for me, they only have their eyes that need to be shaded. So this is the last little extra step. And it just involves getting the eye shade color, or whatever suitable color there is for the particular scene. So I fill in the eyes and then I copy it out. Fill in the eyes, copy it out. It looks pretty good, right? And I think that's all. Now we can have a look at the final product. Okay, here's the video with the audio as well.
Once a few years passed, we found we'd had...
Makes a difference, eh? Oh, there's already a little bit more that's being added on, I see. It might be because I took a break before making this making this voice recording. Although you can see here, I actually reused that background that I liked. Because it's the same scene, so I could use that back. I'm so happy. Anyway, yeah. So I hope whoever's watching this enjoyed this little sneak peek into how I did this, and maybe gained a little bit of knowledge as to why it's taken me 2 years to do this whole thing. It just takes time. Each process there's little things that just take time.